It's July 20th. Today's reading is a setting of high drama. It's still the year 703 BC. The Assyrian army, having conquered Israel, has now invaded Judah, sacking its fortified villages and its path of destruction that has led it to Jerusalem. The Assyrians make it to the wall of Jerusalem and send senior officials to confront King Hezekiah. During this confrontation, the accusations against Judah by the Assyrians reveal one aspect of life in Judah and Israel during this time period that explains just how bad the spiritual conditions were. The Assyrians assumed that God wouldn't help King Hezekiah in Judah because Hezekiah had torn down the many altars that had been built at the high places around the nation. These altars were detestable to God. They were used to offer sacrifices to idols, and during the darker times of Judah's existence, some people had used them to offer sacrifices to God as well. We know from multiple references throughout Scripture that God detested these altars. He had prescribed one place and only one place for sacrifices to be made, at Jerusalem at the temple complex. Hezekiah's decision to tear down these altars throughout the nation were bold and controversial, and very few kings had been willing to take such a daring step. It was one that greatly pleased God. But the Assyrian belief that Hezekiah's actions had insulted God revealed how misunderstood and how controversial this decision really was. Some citizens of Judah had undoubtedly assumed that it really didn't matter where these altars were located. No doubt many people had grown accustomed to making sacrifices locally. Why be bothered to have to go all the way to Jerusalem to do so? The reason that so few previous kings had destroyed the high places was because they were popular. Most kings didn't want to burn their political capital this way. We've seen two key decisions in the life of the nation contribute disproportionately to its downfall. Solomon's decision to allow foreign wives and their detestable idols to be brought into the nation, and the decision by subsequent kings to allow those altars to those idols remain intact. These two tragic decisions remind us that participation in God's kingdom requires obedience. And they remind us that obedience to the details matters. They remind us that doctrine matters. God's instructions are for a reason. God doesn't offer us the option to pick and choose which of His explicit instructions apply. He doesn't want us to build our lives upon what's popular or culturally relevant or convenient. He wants us to build our lives upon the full counsel of His Word. Here's today's application. Is there an area of your life that you've assumed doesn't really matter to God? Maybe an area that has been conveniently ignored or pushed aside as no big deal, and in reality has become compartmentalized? Take a few moments to meditate on that question. If something sticks out, jot it down in your journal and begin to pray about it. Lay it out there, and over the coming days and weeks, see if the Lord begins to speak with you about it in a way that you may not have heard before. Now here's today's prayer.